The Mitsubishi G3M was a Japanese bomber and transport aircraft used by the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service during World War II. Design and development. The G3M has its origins in a specification submitted to the Mitsubishi Company from the Imperial Japanese Navy requesting a heavy bomber aircraft, with a range figure unprecedented at the time. This principally stemmed from Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's influence in the Naval High Commission on the necessity of a heavy bomber capable of encompassing the enormous ranges of the arenas where Imperial Japan sought to conquer in the years to come, including those outlined in the expansionist Tanaka Memorial, namely China, Southeast Asia, the Pacific Isles and the vast Far East of the Soviet Union. The requirement for payload was also unprecedented in Japanese military aviation history, though necessary to accommodate the aerial torpedo envisaged to combat the armored battleships of the Allies in the geographical broadness of the Pacific Front. The speed requirement submitted by the Naval Department was again also unprecedented, not only in Japanese but also in international heavy bomber aviation, where in relation to the envisaged Japanese battlegrounds of China and the Pacific, the bomber would need to not only cover long distances, but necessarily have exceptional speed to strike distant targets with a minimum attack time. Thus the G3M was an embodiment of Japanese military aircraft design in the brief period leading to the Pacific War, with powerful offensive armament and range and speed emphasized over protection and defensive capabilities. In terms of the latter, the G3M was originally designed as a model without any form of defensive weaponry or machine guns, but purely as a bomber, with its high-altitude performance being regarded as sufficient to evade enemy anti-aircraft guns and its high speed in combination with the planned high-performance Mitsubishi A5M fighter envisaged as an armed escort considered sufficient to counter any enemy fighters, even in the low-speed, low-level role of torpedo bomber. The superior fighter escort, combined with the G3M's high speed, was considered sufficient against any form of ship-based AA guns or carrier-based fighters. The lightweight structure and complete lack of defensive machine guns and the additional crew necessarily to operate them were considered essential to maintain the speed and high-altitude performance of the G3M with a heavy payload. Even after the modified final prototype, which did include 3 defensive machine gun emplacements, the G3M kept its lightweight structure and lacked any form of defensive armor as self-sealing fuel tanks, as these were considered to retard speed and altitude. This trait in Japanese bomber and fighter design manifested itself again in its successor, the Mitsubishi G4M, which was so heavily designed to accommodate fuel and bombing armament for long-range strikes at the expense of defense that its vulnerability to fighters and ground and surface gunfire earned it the unofficial nickname of one-shot lighter by Allied fighter pilots. The bomb sight used in the G3M was primitive compared to the mechanisms used in the G3M's contemporaries such as the B-17 Flying Fortress and Heinkel E-111. Aside from the limited precision necessary in its naval role as a long-range torpedo bomber against Allied naval fleets, the G3M frequently operated with other G3M units in massive wave formations. This became a numerical strategy to eliminate the need for singular precision-based bombing. Later the Nakajima Company redesigned the G3M into the improved G3M3 with more powerful engines and increased fuel capacity. This version was only manufactured by Nakajima, being the most rapidly produced in wartime. This version entered service in 1941, and was maintained in service for 2 years, and later used in 1943 alongside the G3M2 for long-range maritime reconnaissance with radar due to its excellent long-range performance. Other G3M derivations were the transport versions G3M-L and L3Y, the latter built by Yokosuka. Operational history. The G3M flew for first time in 1935, taking off from a Nagasaki airfield belonging to Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and landing at Haneda Airport on the outskirts of Tokyo. The G3M first saw combat in Japan's expansionist campaigns on the Chinese mainland in what became known as the Second Sino-Japanese War, where the G3M was able to exploit its long-range capability when, during August-November 1937, the first Rengo Kokutai was established, operating alongside the Kanoya and Kisarazu Kokutai based in Taipei, Formosa, Omura, Kyushu and Jeju Island. On August 14 of that same year, 42 NELs and 7 Hiroji-2H-1s, escorted by 12 Nakajima A4Ns and 12 Mitsubishi A5Ms of the 2nd Rengo Kokutai, departed from the bases to cross the East China Sea for the bombing of Hangzhou and Quanta, and performed, amongst others actions, terror bombing of coastal and inland targets in China, including the bombing during the Battle of Shanghai and Nanjing. Later, from bases in occupied Chinese territories, it took part in the strategic carpet bombing of the Chinese heartland, its combat range being sufficient to cover the elongated distances involved. Most notably, it was involved in the round-the-clock bombing of Chongqing, when the Pacific War erupted in 1941, with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The G3M was by this time considered to be antiquated, but still 3 frontline units were operating, a total of 204 G3M2s in 4 Kokutai in the Central Pacific, and of these 54 aircraft from the Takao Kokutai were deployed from Formosa in the opening of the Battle of the Philippines. On December 8, 1941, G3 megaseconds from the Mifaro Kokutai struck Singapore City from bases in occupied Vietnam as one of many air raids during the Battle of Singapore, resulting in thousands of British and Asiatic civilians dead. Wake Island was similarly bombed by G3 megaseconds from the Chitose Kokutai on the first day of the war, with both civilian and U.S. Navy infrastructures being heavily damaged on the ground. Other G3 megaseconds of Chitose Kokutai, based in Kwajalein Island, attacked U.S. Navy and civil installations on Howland Island in the same period. The G3M was famous for taking part, along with the more advanced Mitsubishi G4M, Betty, in the sinking of 2 British capital ships on 10 December 1941. NELs from the Jensen Kokutai provided important support during the attack on the HMS Prince of Wales and Repulse near the Malayan coast. Prince of Wales and Repulse were the first 2 capital ships ever sunk exclusively by an air attack while at sea during war. A G3M of the Mifaro Air Group was involved in a dogfight with the consolidated PBY Catalina flying boat of No. 205 Squadron RAF near the Anambas Islands on 25 December 1941, in which the Catalina was shot down. The attack on Darwin, Australia on February 19, 1942, by 188 Japanese aircraft, included 27 G3 megaseconds of the 1 Kokutai based at Ambon, in the Dutch East Indies. The NELs attacked alongside 27 Mitsubishi G4M Betty bombers. These bombers followed an 81-strong first wave of Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters, Aichi D3A Val dive bombers and Nakajima B5 and Kate torpedo bombers. From 1943, the majority of NELs served as glider tugs, aircrew and paratroop trainers, and for transporting high-ranking officers and VIPs between metropolitan islands, occupied territories and combat fronts until the end of the war. Variants. Prototype with either Hero Type 91, Mitsubishi Kinsei 2, or Mitsubishi Kinsei 3 engines and glass, a solid nose, 21 built. G3M1A, redesigned prototypes powered by Hero Type 91 are Mitsubishi Kinsei engines, glass nose, land-based attack bomber Navy Type 96 first series model, major extension of the cabin with a revised cover, some with fixed-pitch propeller, 34 built. G3M1L G3M1 converted into an armed or unarmed military transport version and powered by Mitsubishi Kinsei 45 engines, more powerful engines and increased fuel capacity. Dorsal turret 343 constructed by Mitsubishi, 412 G3M2 and G3M3 manufactured by Nakajima. Upper and belly turrets substituted for one upper turret, glass side positions, 238 built, more powerful engines and increased fuel capacity for a longer range, constructed by Nakajima. Transport Navy Type 96, advanced conversion of G3M1 armed transport, built by Yokosuka. Modification of G3M2 with Mitsubishi Kinsei engines, built by Yokosuka. Mitsubishi twin-engine transport, around 2 dozen G3M2 Model 21 bombers converted for use by civil operators such as Nippon Koku K.K. Nippon, one of the twin-engine transports converted to carry out a round-the-world flight in 1939 on behalf of the Mainichi Shimbun newspaper. Operators. Japan, Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service. Post-war Indonesia, Indonesian Air Force. People's Republic of China, People's Liberation Army Air Force. Specifications. Data from the Mitsubishi G3M NEL, Imperial Japanese Navy bombers of World War II. General characteristics: crew, 7, length, 16.45 meters, wingspan, 25 meters, height, 3.68 meters, wing area, 75 square meters, empty weight, 4,965 kilograms. Gross weight 8,000 kilograms. Fuel capacity 3,874 L. Power plant 2 times Mitsubishi Kinsei 14 CYL. Air-cooled radial piston engines 791 kilowatts each. Performance maximum speed 375 kilometers per hour. Cruising speed 280 kilometers per hour. Range 4,400 kilometers. Service ceiling 9,200 meters. Rate of climb 6 meters per second. Armament guns 1 x 20 mm Type 99 cannon in rear dorsal turret, 4 x 7.7 mm Type 92 machine gun in cockpit, left and right side positions, and in retractable forward dorsal turret. Bombs 800 kilograms of bombs are 1 aerial torpedo. Popular culture. The G3M makes an appearance both as prototype and production model in the Studio Ghibli anime film The Wind Rises. The designer, Kiro Honjo, also makes appearance as a friend and engineer working at Mitsubishi with the protagonist, Jiro Horikoshi.